Squishies! Back again with another vlog. This is Ducktales. Season 1. Blanking on the episode numbers, but it's Beware the Buddy System and Jaws with a $sign. Great pair of episodes. I actually watched Beware the Buddy System when it came out a few weeks ago now, I think. Not a month, but at least a few weeks. And it was, it was a very solid episode that I was very excited to see. And I was not expecting Jaws, which just came out more recently, yesterday, I think, as of when I'm recording this. I was not really expecting it to hold its own, but it really mostly did. So, yeah, let's just jump into them. So the big thing, of course, at least for me, in Beware the Buddy System is Gizmo Duck. Gizmo Duck was basically my first superhero. I don't really remember being into any real superheroes before that, before they introduced him on Ducktales. And his introduction in Ducktales was a major event. They made a TV movie that was later chopped up and aired as 5 half-hour episodes. And was clearly designed to be done that way because it was very, very episodic in hindsight. There were cliffhangers at the end of each episode, but it was really kind of a chaotic arc. There wasn't really a focused villain or really an ongoing story other than the establishment of Gizmo Duck as a hero, but that really happens in the first couple. And after that, it's just kind of episodes in the adventures of Gizmo Duck, which I think makes using Darkwing Duck to introduce him a great move. Gizmo Duck, for all that his character is really clearly based in the old series on the Greatest American Hero, in the new one he's got a bit more of Iron Man in him. The MCU version of Iron Man specifically. But he's for all of that, he's the first superhero of the Ducktales world. He's the noble, upstanding, upright one, with the secret identity, who's kind of an underdog, and all these random powers that he pulls out. He's basically Superman. And Darkwing Duck is basically his Batman. They have a similar kind of relationship. Darkwing Duck was more slapstick than dark as a show, but the environments, the settings of it were still, visually. Darkwing Duck was the terror that flaps in the night, So it was great to start with him, as kind of easing us into the concept of a duck superhero. That scene in general was just a great homage to the old show, and I think pretty much covers what I want out of it, because Darkwing Duck was not actually that good of a show. The concept of the character is great. The show itself, I really liked it as a kid, but it is not aged well. Unlike, say, Ducktales, which, despite its staggering racism, nonetheless has managed to age pretty well in terms as stories, which makes it the better candidate for the reboot. So, as for Gizmo Duck himself, I really like how they do his introduction here, and this whole thing they've been building of the robot that inevitably turns evil, because part of what made Gizmoduck was that he was this put-upon working-class guy as Fenton. He was just this guy. And with, that ties into kind of the origins of the robot gone evil genre. This whole idea of robots as, these machines that turn against their creators. Obviously, it owes a big debt to Frankenstein. All science fiction does. It's kind of a strong contender for first science fiction story. But where robots really start to come from, and where kind of the ideas we have about robots specifically, for example, that they're machines, comes from Karel Čapek, Czechoslovakian playwright, and his Rossum's Universal Robots, which also coined the term. And robot comes from the Czech word robotnik, yes, like the Sonic the Hedgehog villain. It's Czech for peasant or worker. And the whole thing is really just about how if you abuse your workers and treat them like machines instead of people, they will turn against you. And that's exactly what we saw happen with Little Bulb. And to a lesser extent, it's kind of what happens with Buddy here. The minute they say that, he's inevitable, the minute he hears them in the car saying that him turning evil is inevitable and talking about trying to control him and treating him like a machine, he turns against them. Because that's really what happens when a machine revolts. All the way back to Rossum's Universal Robot, because really, it's the mistreated worker. And that makes putting Fenton in the heart of Gizmoduck brilliant, because we start out seeing him as a mistreated worker. He is treated horribly by Gyro. And so, with him putting on the machine, him taking the machine on, is in itself an act of rebellion. He was told not to. And so, he is the robot, the worker, revolting. But he's doing so in a way that helps people, that saves people. Which on the one hand is very much a, status quo preserving, don't rock the boat, incremental change kind of a thing, which is really pretty much standard for superhero narratives. And so that fits. I'm not really looking to Ducktales to kind of push back against the standard norms of the superhero genre. So, it's still a cool concept that it's a working class guy in the heart of it, and that they parallel him heavily with kind of our everyman character Launchpad. They make a really good team, which is great because in the old show, Launchpad was Darkwing Duck's sidekick. Here, Darkwing Duck is a story within a story, so Launchpad is clearly going to be Gizmoduck's sidekick, along with probably Dewey and Gyro is in on the secret, but interestingly, I'm not sure Scrooge is. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't think Scrooge saw Fenton inside the thing. I don't think he recognized him. I think this time around, Scrooge does not know. It's Launchpad, Dewey, and Gyro who do, which is a really interesting way to go with it. So that's all really solid, and I like Mark Beeks as the villain for Gizmo Duck, which seems to be where we're going for this. That the Gizmo Duck thread, at least at first, Mark Beeks will be the main villain of it. I like that because, of course, if you're talking about the workers revolting, who else better to be the villain than your Elon Musk character? It's really just spot on. So, bravo show. So yeah, that was all really well done. Jaws is less of an event. It's kind of the next stage in an ongoing process that we know has to happen. That Lena becomes friendlier with Webby, and Magica continues trying to control her, and eventually, of course, she's going to rebel against Magica and either sacrifice herself and have to be rescued, or rescue the others, or both. We've seen this story. This is a pretty standard kind of mole who gets turned by the essential goodness of the good guys. Which actually now explains why they brought back the Terraformians. I remember on that episode, I was asking, like, was there a great hue and cry to bring these characters back? And it struck me while watching this, she's a mole, they're mole people. The whole thing about that episode is that the moles aren't as scary and dangerous, and they're not really undermining everybody. So, yay. It's a pun. And I, thus, on those grounds, give it a little forgiveness. Because I like puns. And I like shows that play jokes on their audiences. That said, there's some really good stuff going on between Magica and Lena in terms of, like, depicting an abusive relationship in kid-palatable fantasy terms. But the things Magica is doing that are being, like, that the show is flagging as evil things to do are not magical things. I mean, yes, creating the shark out of money is an act of magic, but there's more to it than that. The way that she seeks to isolate Lena, to tell her, to accuse her of placing friends over family because she prefers the friend that's nice to her to the aunt that isn't. These are abuser tactics. Abusers like to isolate their victims, to cut them off from other forms of support. And that's exactly what Magica is doing. She dangles promises in front of her that, while putting her into very threatening situations, she is outright abusing Lena, and it's interesting to see depicted. I'm increasingly really feeling sorry for that poor kid. The more I talk about it. So, that was very well done, and the part that I didn't like so much was the friendship magic thing. I'm hoping that what's going on there is that it's Lena's own magic pushing back against her aunt's, that she's inherited magical power, and it's awakening out of her relationship with Webby, as opposed to a more My Little Pony-esque friendship is magic, Webby even straight up quoted a couple of My Little Pony lines about that. And I mean, if that's the way they go, that's the way they go, but I just feel like that doesn't fit this show as well as it might in, say, My Little Pony. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. still a really good episode. Both really good episodes. Very excited that Gizmoduck is here. Very interested to see where they go with Magica. One thing that caught my attention was when she referred to the centuries-old blood feud, which implies that the family's issues with... that it's not her seeking vengeance on Scrooge for something Scrooge did to her, but something an ancestor of his did to an ancestor of hers, which is interesting. I'm also starting to wonder, because Magica said something about bringing the dime to her. It's not clear to me if she is that shadow and bound to Lena somehow, or that's how she's communicating with and controlling Lena, and she's off in her, volcano fortress or wherever she is in this show. I'm intrigued by the possibility that it's the latter, or I should say the former, that she is in fact just a shadow, possibly even dead, simply because I like the idea of a Ghost Magica versus Ghost Duckworth showdown. Because she talks about turning the manor against Scrooge, and that's exactly what Ghost Duckworth did. Turned against the party, not Scrooge. Just a thought that I had while I was watching the episode. But yeah, two very good episodes. New Ducktales is really, after a couple of false steps, the last few episodes have really been doing a great job. It's not like sublime TV to the level of a Steven Universe or a Good Place, but it's quite good, and it is a worthy successor to the old show so far. That's about it. Hope you all enjoyed that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon for early access to vlogs, essays, gaming videos, and more. And I will see you all next time. Bye!